Noticed my girlfriend's sudden disinterest in sex, tried discussing it, but she shuts down, leaving me worried about untold problems. I'm very concerned about my girlfriend at this point and I have no idea what to do. For info, PCOS equals polycystic ovary syndrome, a chronic hormonal condition that affects women of reproductive age. It's characterized by hormonal imbalances, irregular periods, and cysts in the ovaries. PCOS equals polycystic ovarian disease, a common endocrine disorder that affects women's reproductive systems, caused by a combination of genetics and hormonal imbalances. Pretty much the title. Back in Aprilish, we were having sex 2 to 3 times a day. We live in an apartment together. She's been taking online classes for her master's and I'm working from home since the lockdown started. At some point, she got really busy and tired with a project, so we obviously stopped having sex temporarily. Since it's gotten over though, which was nearly 4 months ago at this point, she's turned me down every time I've tried to initiate or set the mood for sex. I have never pressured her. I usually wait a couple of nights before asking again when she tells me she's not in the mood, which turned into waiting a week, which turned into waiting 2 weeks. At this point I'm really concerned. We've never gone anywhere near 4 months without sex before. We've both always had pretty high sex drives. At this point it's important to note that I do not press the matter or pester or pressure her in any way. The moment she says she's not in the mood, I back off immediately. I don't think I fucked up anywhere because she's always quite apologetic when she turns me down. Our relationship is pretty much perfect in every other way too. We cuddle and hug and have game nights and movie nights. It's never felt like we're drifting apart at any point. She hasn't been behaving differently, like she's upset or depressed. We give each other plenty of space too. It's not like we're constantly together. We have our own friend circles and we curl up on our own devices from time to time. I've tried talking to her about it, but she gets really upset and keeps insisting that nothing is wrong. I dropped the matter pretty quickly too because I don't want her to feel like I'm pressuring her to have sex. I just want her to let me in and tell me what's wrong. I honestly don't care about the sex, but I know there's something she's not telling me and it's gone on long enough that I'm getting extremely worried about her. Update 1. There were some mixed responses, with some people suggesting I insist on addressing it with her because she's hiding something, with others recommending I give her time to open up on her own. Ultimately, I decided to sort of go for a combo of the two. Friday, when we were both done with work, we sat down and had a discussion. I told her that I could give her the space and time she needed till she was ready to talk to me about it, but I couldn't leave it unaddressed. She needed to acknowledge that there at least was something that she didn't feel ready to tell me, and that was fine, but she at least needed to acknowledge its existence, if only so I stopped feeling like I was going crazy. She started sobbing when I was done and then she started explaining everything. Some background that I didn't mention in my previous post because it didn't really seem relevant is that my girlfriend has PCOD. One of the consequences of this is that she finds it very difficult to lose weight and has been insecure about her body for most of her life. About a year ago, completely of her own choice, I have always told her that she's beautiful to me no matter what her weight. She resolved to start losing weight, both for her health and to feel better about her body. She started going to the gym a couple times a week, and I was supportive and also cut out all my own junk food consumption in solidarity. Since the lockdown started and gyms shut, apparently she started slowly gaining some weight back due to stress eating and lack of exercise. I am ashamed to say I did not even notice that she was torturing herself over her weight all this while. She admitted that she stopped having sex because she was terrified I would stop finding her attractive after seeing her naked. I reassured her that I think she's gorgeous and attractive no matter what, and I tell her this every day, but she was afraid that would have changed once I saw the weight she had put on. The rest of the conversation consisted of me reassuring her that she's beautiful and her appreciating but not really believing me. After a bit, she asked me to change the topic, and I reluctantly agreed. We had a fairly quiet dinner. She was a little sad and relieved at the same time at having told me, I think. And I was busy scheming. The next morning before work I told her she looked lovely again and she gave me a wan smile, like she appreciated it but didn't really believe me. But that was okay. I was gonna convince her. I asked her to pick up the groceries that evening because I was gonna have a meeting run late. The moment she left home, I got to work. I dug out some fairy lights and a bunch of candles from storage and started setting them up in the living room. Made a couple of playlists and charged the speaker. Snuck down to the florist and bought a giant bouquet. Some more background: I hate dancing because I suck massively at it while my girlfriend loves it. She used to go dancing every month or two with her girlfriends before lockdown. I'd join in sometimes because it was worth how happy it made her, but she definitely missed it way more than me. So when she got back, naturally I greeted her with what were probably the most ridiculous dance moves in the history of mankind. I'm not gonna lie, folks. She laughed. She laughed a lot. She took a short video, and we both laughed while watching it later. My movement resembled a 5-year-old practicing kung fu more than it resembled dancing, and I had stuck a rose in my ear for maximum ridiculousness. Totally worth it, though. I have no idea how she ever thought she's ugly. Her smile is just so fucking radiant. We danced like idiots for a while before I switched to the slow dance playlist. It was definitely the happiest I'd seen her in a long time. I'd been a bad boyfriend and somehow missed how much she missed everything else. I should have done it months ago. I told her all this. Told her she's the most beautiful woman in my eyes and always will be. And yeah, we had sex. Last night was all about her. She needed to feel special and I had been missing that for too long. I offered to make dance nights a weekly thing afterwards. Kind of as a substitute for the workouts she's been missing if she wants. She tore up a little. She knows how much I hate dancing. She told me that wasn't necessary. Apparently sex is just as much of a workout as dancing. And we have a lot of missed workouts to catch up on. I'm certainly not complaining. In all seriousness though, I'm gonna dip into my savings a little and order a home treadmill. She can't afford one right now because of college bills, so I'll surprise her with it. Smile. Thank you to everyone who helped me out with their advice. However, I figured that it's dumb to take the chance, and one surprise was good enough. And if there's anything this whole experience has taught me, it's the importance of communication. So I'm going to bring it up at dinner tonight that I comfortably have enough saved up to purchase a home workout machine. Since I saw cycles/ellipticals being mentioned, we'll figure out which one we want, and that I'd love to buy one for our home for both of us to use. Thank you all so much once again for your advice. To all the people who commented to insist she's cheating on me because I'm a simp, AO, thank you for setting the exemplary standard for being macho. Insulting strangers online is so delightfully masculine. The lovely folks who told me to dump her because she's fat get the disappointing but not unexpected shitheads shout out as well. Update 2. I spotted an end-of-year email from Reddit for this account, which reminded me of the existence of this throwaway, and I decided to do a quick Christmas Eve update on my profile page in case anyone was still interested, because a lot has happened in 4 years. We're both doing well. We got engaged about 3 years ago and adopted a cat, but it went a bit downhill from there because of a bunch of different health issues that hit her consecutively. She's largely recovered from the temporary ones, and the permanent ones are a lot more under control now thanks to regular health checkups and medication, but it was a rocky couple of years, not for our relationship, just for us in general. All the medical issues also meant she hasn't worked since, which isn't an issue financially but for other reasons which I'll come to in a moment. She's doing a lot better mentally now as well, at least relative to last year. She still struggles with self-esteem and feeling like a burden to her loved ones, especially me, especially because of the aforementioned lack of work over the last few years. She's a lot more communicative about these things now though instead of bottling them up, so she's not let our relationship suffer for this. And I like to think that even if her self-esteem hasn't gone up, her way of coping with it is a lot healthier now, and that's an important step in the right direction. She's even been looking to get back to work over the last month or so, despite the challenges of low self-esteem, severe imposter syndrome, and having to explain a years-long absence, and I'm really proud of her for not just giving up after the hand she's been dealt health-wise. I'm doing really well. I switched jobs and fields about a year back and I'm making a lot more money now, and I'm enjoying my work a lot more too. I actually started therapy recently as well because there were some personal discipline issues I wanted to fix, and I ended up discovering a whole host of other issues I had repressed, and bringing them back out into the open and dealing with them has been simultaneously terrifying and liberating, but it's also made me a much better friend and partner, so looks like I'm gonna have to keep braving them for as long as it takes. As for the biggest one, as is probably obvious from the title, we got married 2 months ago. We would have done it a lot earlier if she hadn't had a bunch of health issues pop up unexpectedly, but with her on the mend, we were finally able to plan and organize the things so everyone we wanted to be there could be there. I honestly sometimes still find it surreal, like WTF I'm a husband? It still feels like I'm dreaming sometimes and I'm still that clueless wide-eyed college kid, but I look at the woman sleeping next to me and I remember all the ways I've changed for the better, all the ways I've grown up because of her influence, and I feel really lucky to have her. And I know that I and she still have a lot more growing up to do, but I'm feeling this overwhelming contentedness within because we get to do all that growing up together. Now on to second story. Ran into my ex-wife at our hometown's drugstore. Now she's begging for closure, but I'm only interested in the details of her downfall. I, 32 male, met Sarah, 30F, in grade school in our small town. She was my first everything, girlfriend, love, and eventually wife. We both went to college together, and after I graduated, we got married when I was 23, and she was 21. Sarah was still finishing her degree, and I worked hard to support both of us while she completed her studies. When she got her first job, I was so proud of her. It felt like all our sacrifices and hard work were paying off, and I thought we were on our way to building a life together. For 2 years, everything seemed fine, or at least I thought so. Then one day, I came home from work and found her packing a bag. She sat me down and told me she had been having an affair with a coworker. I was completely oblivious. She was crying and apologetic. She said she loved me but she was in love with the coworker and they had this chemistry and a deep connection and that she never felt this level of excitement and attachment with me. At the same time, she seemed to be really apologetic and acted very guilty. She moved in with the coworker that night. Sarah made the divorce as quick and easy as possible. She didn't contest anything and took almost nothing. In the state we lived in, you can get a divorce in 10 days if there aren't any children involved. We filed the papers ourselves, no lawyer, couldn't afford one. After it was final, she asked if we could be friends, and I'm ashamed to say that I just broke down and sobbed like a baby in front of her, said nothing and left. At that point, she was 23, and I was 25. A couple of years later, in early 2020, while riding out COVID in my hometown, my mom casually mentioned that Sarah had married the guy she left me for. Apparently, Sarah's parents and mine had talked about it since they're longtime friends, and Sarah's parents were hesitant about the marriage but supported her. Hearing that stung. I had done everything I could to move on, but knowing she had married her affair partner felt like reopening the wound. I told my mom, as kindly as I could, that I didn't want to hear about Sarah anymore. She understood and never brought her up again. I was broken and depressed at first, but I went to see a therapist and got on some meds. I got some certifications and, through a friend from college, I got an interview with a global consulting company. My friend was married and couldn't do the amount of travel that the job required, so he pushed hard for me for the position. I started traveling around the world and pretty much worked all the time at first. On any given day, I was either in the gym, working, or having a virtual therapy session at 3 a.m. I was a dull boy. I got into incredible shape, thanks to lifting and running. Eventually, I got a long-term project in Romania and was able to meet and have relationships with women. Fast forward a few years. Recently, I had a few weeks of vacation saved up, and I wanted to spend Christmas in Reykjavik, Iceland. I went to my parents' place in my hometown for Thanksgiving with my sister and brother. Last Thursday, I was at the local independent drugstore in what passes for downtown in my hometown. It has a lunch counter like an old-fashioned drugstore. I got a cup of coffee and sat down at the counter drinking it when Sarah sat down beside me and said hello. She was super nervous and red in the face. I was shocked and just sat there looking at her. I was exploding inside, but I kept my cool outwardly. She was still beautiful. She was actually very fit herself and had lost her baby face and became maybe even more beautiful. She started off by apologizing for the way she ended our marriage. I told her she already apologized like 100 times when she dumped me, but she insisted that she was young and stupid, and over time she realized how much she had hurt me. She wanted to meet me later in a less crowded spot with fewer spies, small town, remember? I shook my head no and told her frankly that I didn't see what I could possibly get out of meeting with her again. That kind of took the wind out of her sails, and she kind of deflated. She admitted that it was probably more for her than for me. She said that I'd get closure not only for how she ended things but for the kind of person she was back then. She wanted to tell me about how she'd changed and what she'd learned about herself and what real love is. She wanted me to see that the person she became is someone that I could respect and maybe be friends with again. I wanted to get the hell out of there, so I just told her I'd think about it. She gave me her number, and I went home. Apparently, my mother and sister had already heard about it from Sarah's mom. So I'm a big dumb victim of some kind of big dumb Hallmark Christmas movie hit job. My sister, 29F, and mom, 55F, told me that they kept up with Sarah since our divorce and they know that she's changed and that I should hear her out. My dad, 56M, just shook his head and walked off. My brother, 22M, thought all of this was hilarious. I asked if he wanted to chime in, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said that since Sarah and I knew each other from when we were kids, I should at least hear her out just to keep the peace between our families since we live in a small town. Personally, I do think that her family would feel insulted if I didn't at least talk with her. I know for a fact that she's living with her parents now, so it seems like her life completely, to the bed. I'd kind of like to get the gory details as maybe a form of schadenfreude, but it's all behind me now, and I think it would all just make me sad. I guess I'm a better man now that I'm more mature, more wealthy, and fitter than I was when I was with her, but I'm still the same guy that she didn't have chemistry or connection with back in the day, so I think whatever comes out of her mouth would be bullshit. I think she's probably a dragon cosplaying as a princess and wants me to be her white knight. F at $K that. My mom and sister are pushing hard for me to meet her, and my mom says that she's afraid if I don't at least hear Sarah out, that Sarah's mom will resent her and make her social life more complicated. Let me make it clear that I have no intention of getting back with Sarah. Sarah is very beautiful, but so are the women of Romania, Iceland, and elsewhere. And they have the added bonus of not breaking my heart. I'm interested in going just to hear about what happened to her after she dumped me and to smooth things over for my folks. Update 1. I'm currently writing this from Reykjavik, Iceland. I have some friends I met while doing some consulting work here. This time of year, the days are very short and the northern lights are visible. Unfortunately, it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy for the foreseeable future here, so I'm out of luck with the aurora borealis. We're doing a Christmas pub crawl among other things. Reykjavik is very single-friendly during the holidays. After I posted, for the next couple of days, my mom and sister kept bugging me about it until I caved. I know. I made it clear to them that I had no intention of getting back together with Sarah and that I was pissed that they thought there was a chance I'd get back together with someone who stabbed their son and brother in the heart. Finally, I told Sarah I'd meet her at the playground at our old school. It's a small town, so there's only one school that's K-12. When we met, I told her up front that I'm just there as a favor to our parents and my sister. She acknowledged that and we engaged in a little small talk. She told me that she had started following me on social media. I've since made it friends and family only, and she saw how I'd been all over the world and even commented on the girlfriend I had in Romania. I told Sarah her name was Monica and we had a great time together. She then started in with the juicy stuff I wanted to hear. Unfortunately, it wasn't very juicy. Just regular boring relationship crap. She started living with the guy and it quickly became apparent that, once she was with him, the relationship went from an exciting affair to a regular humdrum relationship. She said she knew the forbidden sparks were gone the first time she had to pick up and launder the guy's skid-marked underwear. Yep, she left me for a guy who was barely toilet trained. She said she was in denial that she couldn't have thrown me away for a guy who was no good, so she doubled down by marrying him. Sarah was always very stubborn. He was apparently a good salesman and earned a lot in commissions, but he was really bad with money. They had a lot of fights about money and household chores, and finally she caught him cheating with a coworker. Oh, the irony. She left him with a wrecked credit score. She was pregnant with his kid at the time, so she got an AB0RT. Trying to avoid the filters. This is something no one in our families know about. She's been living with her parents and working at the same feed store her dad works at. She said she wanted to reconnect with me due to the fact that we were childhood friends and had been each other's best friends for 17 years, and she missed me. She started on about how much therapy she'd been through and that she is a completely different person now. She wants me to know how much she cares about me and that that girl I was best friends with is still there and blah blah blah. I can't even write this manipulative tea out anymore. I guess I'm not a nice guy anymore. I didn't want to start any kind of beef with her family and mine, so I just told her that I had also changed since she dumped me. I told her that when I touch something and get burned, I don't touch it anymore. I told her it's great that she worked on herself, but some new guy, idiot, will have to benefit from that. When I look at her, all I see is her crying, telling me she's leaving me holding a proverbial knife with my blood all over it. In my mind, she's a person who says, "Honey, I love you, but I also love stabbing." No, thank you. I told her that if we got together, the resentment would make me treat her like crap all the time, and she didn't want or deserve that. I told her good luck in her future endeavors, and I hope she keeps up with her changes, and that I had to leave to go to Iceland for Christmas. Yes, I was bragging. She was tearing up and trying not to let me see her cry, and I pretended not to notice. Dad was disappointed I caved to Mom and sister. He made it like I failed the test of manhood. I told my mom and sister not to expect any wedding bells or grandchildren/nephews anytime soon. My brother called me a simp, and so I had to wrestle him. He got me in a headlock. The guy's getting too big and I held back too much. I left for Iceland the next day, and I'm there until the new year. I'm headed to Budapest for a follow-up project. Sarah is not invited.